Hello, good morning everybody. Welcome back to Forever United TV. I'm Adam, your morning Manchester United updates and everything going on with Manchester United. And of course, a footballer's weekend for us. Now looking ahead, 1 week till we get back in action against Everton. All of the updates from Carrington coming up, any updates on injuries and things like that in the show today. Mainly on transfers and what's happening in Manchester United's summer this coming transfer window. Romano has dropped a big update on Mason Greenwood. I want to talk about that first of all because I don't think he's fully correct on this. I want to go through it. I'll tell you exactly what he said. I'll give you the clip of what Romano has also said, but it has big implications for Manchester United's summer transfer spend going into the transfer window. And of course, on top of that, what manager will Manchester United have? More updates on Michael Carrick coming in this morning as well, on top of all of the transfer news and your input into the show as well. If you are live, get into that chat, get in there, give me your thoughts, everybody. Happy Monday and welcome to another week. I wonder what this week is going to bring. It's going to be a weird few weeks for Manchester United with the stop-start nature of the actual season. Obviously, this break with the FA Cup, we've got the international break coming up next month, but we have some massive games now coming up. From this Everton game leading into crunch games against Crystal Palace and Newcastle as well. Massive couple of weeks for Michael Carrick in this now running for top four, because a lot of the transfer we're talking about this morning is based off of Manchester United finishing in the Champions League. But on the side of that, player sales that we obviously know about and what is happening this summer with players that aren't at Manchester United. We've alluded to and talked about this before in terms of what Manchester United can do this summer with certain players. But we do have a big update. I didn't expect this to come from Fabrizio Romano. I'm going to be completely honest. And I'm going to go through the bits that I think are what I think are wrong in this statement from Romano. But here is what Romano has said, first of all, so you all know where we're at and what we're up to and what Romano has said regarding Marseille's situation and Mason Greenwood going into the summer.
Keep an eye also at Olympique Marseille on what kind of project they will now build to restart with a new director and with a new manager for the future. Obviously, this is going to impact also the future of Mason Greenwood. Mason Greenwood, who in terms of numbers has very good numbers at Marseille, but don't forget that for Mason Greenwood, for example, Manchester United have 50% sell-on clause on the player. When they sold Mason Greenwood to Olympique Marseille 1 year and a half ago, they included also a sell-on clause, a heavy sell-on clause. 50%. So financially, if Mason Greenwood leaves Olympique Marseille in the summer to make a multi-million move, in that case, Manchester United will get 50% of the fee. And that's obviously huge in terms of financial plans. Rashford, Højlund, Onana, Greenwood, several players who are no longer in Manchester United project but can make profit.
So let's first of all talk about the 50% stats, where I don't think this is true. Now, Romano is saying, and usually when Romano talks, we listen and we take it as a definite, things happening. He very rarely gets things wrong when it comes to transfers and details of contracts and whatnot. So we'll go with that and we'll go with what he said there and take it with the 50%. I've heard different that Marseille have now bought in more than just the 50%. So they had a chance to extend their actual ownership of Mason Greenwood and buy more of his rights, of the player's rights. So there is a story that there is now 40% on Mason Greenwood. That's doing the rounds as well. And obviously we can only judge of what these so-called in-the-know top journalists are saying in getting this information to us. So Romano sticking to the 50%. That's correct in terms of what he said there and what Manchester United put into the sale of Mason Greenwood when we sold him 2 summers ago. That's fine. That's great. On top of that, 50% on any sell-on isn't quite true. And I'm only going to quote what The Athletic have said on this. And Andy Mitten has also spoke about this before. It's actually 50% on any profit made on top of the 27 point something million that Man United sold Mason Greenwood for. We've spoken about this before, but just to clarify and clear it up in terms of what that means. So, for instance, let's make the numbers easy. If Mason Greenwood was sold for 100 million to another big club, a major move happened because Mason Greenwood's numbers are off the scale, like Romano said there. And he is one of the top strikers and top forwards in the world at the moment and will fetch a hefty price. So, for instance, take the 27 million off of the of the 100 million that he would have been sold for, if that is what is going to happen. And Manchester United take 50% of that. If you use them numbers, United are in and around the £36 million mark in terms of what we would take from it. Bring in the 40% argument, which apparently is there right now. Obviously, what Romano said on the full 50%. Obviously, if it's full 50% on any sale, which I don't think it is, then obviously United are going to get more money. But whichever way you look at it, Man United stand to make a good bit. I mean, if I was to guess in terms of what happens with Mason Greenwood, obviously you've got to guess about how much he would have been sold for. That might not be 100 million, more realistically around 80 million there. Man United stand to make, I think, from this deal 25 to 30 million, I think, overall. If I'm guessing about his valuation, and someone might come in and take him for 100 million, I don't know. But what we're looking at here, and the facts are that there is a sell-on clause. That's debatable about how much it is, 40 to 50%. Then you've got the profit margin of that. Like, are we making 40 to 50% off the profit of the original transfer, which was 27, or is it the full transfer going forward? Like Romano just said there, because there is nothing else in his video that says it's on the profit. It's just the sell-on. And you heard it there from the horse's mouth. So there's a few things I don't think are quite right. But either way, Manchester United, depending on the value, depending on how much of Mason Greenwood Marseille own, and the details will obviously be ironed out. And we'll be able to see how much Manchester United make when the finances come in, if Mason Greenwood is sold. But yet again, it's like Manchester United getting into the Champions League and that money being there, and how important that is. On top of that, Marcus Rashford's 26 million. On top of that, Rasmus Højlund's 38 million. On top of that as well. And then you add Mason Greenwood onto that. You're going to sell Manuel Ugarte, Joshua Zirkzee, perhaps even Mason Mount, like we said yesterday. You can see in terms of player sales how Manchester United are planning what could be a contingency plan in terms of raising money to buy players in that they need. On top of that, a real budget if we make Champions League and get that money also into the football club with player sales. Take off all of that money and the wages that Manchester United are paying out to certain players on the books right now as well. And that going into that new financial fair play year for United is going to be absolutely massive in terms of what we can spend. And the money will be there to be spent if they want to spend it on the playing staff and improving the Manchester United squad. That's the line from Romano there. And obviously, we're just laying out the facts on what's actually been said and obviously how much United could spend. It doesn't mean we are going to spend it. And we know that the issue with the ownership and what the Glazers are wanting out of the football club compared to how INEOS want to run it in terms of investment into the first team is very complicated to know exactly how it's going to go down this summer. But all in all, if United make the Champions League and these deals do come off, Manchester United stand to make massive amounts of money this summer to spend back in. I don't expect United to make a profit because I expect United to make several transfers in investing into this squad. The only way Manchester United are sustainable and profitable, like Sir Jim Radcliffe says, is by being in the Champions League every single season and competing for the Premier League and the Champions League. That's the only way this club can move forward now. And obviously, the mess aside, which was created last week with Sir Jim Radcliffe talking on Sky News, the sponsorship side of things is going to be tight. So what Man United do business-wise with players, with this new financial fair play rule, and obviously transfers coming in, is going to determine a lot as to how good we are next season as well. But again, all of that said, everything that could come and possibly will come financially wise for Manchester United going into next summer is still going to be balanced off what Manchester United do this season and this next 12 games for Manchester United under Michael Carrick. More on him in a minute, but quickly just on the other stuff that Romano was talking about, just to get the transfer news out of the way. Yan Diomande again. Now, we're only talking about Yan Diomande because of what Romano said yet again. I know it is just on his say, but he knows that Manchester United are well and truly interested in the player. I think the player made it clear last night. He put to bed rumours of Liverpool being his favourite club. It's not his favourite club. It was his dad's favourite club. He has come out and said this in public now. So the Liverpool talk and that being his favourite club has completely been quashed and put to bed. His favourite club at the moment is RB Leipzig. Of course, players going to say that because they're the club that's given him the break and now put him on the bigger stage and put him where he is now with a chance of getting this massive move, which he probably will get in the next couple of seasons. We spoke about Diomande and Bayern Munich not going in on that big price. Christian Falk spoke about the price tag that's on there from Leipzig at the moment. He's not going to go for that price. No one's going to spend 87 million on Yan Diomande. No one is going to go there with that. It's ridiculous to think that someone would. And again, it's just an inflated price to then be knocked down to the realistic price, which I think will be between 60 and 70 million. So I'm not saying that's going to be a definite, but I think going off how Leipzig have operated in the past, I think that's exactly where Manchester United are going to be looking at and other clubs are going to be looking at when it comes to Diomande. I honestly don't think he's worth more than that. I don't. And that's just going off what his experience is. And he is a good player. He's a top talent. And I'm not saying he's not. But the unproven factor in Diomande is there for everyone to see. He's going to keep on being brought up. And Romano mentioned Manchester United there in his video, saying that they are very interested in Diomande. It does come down to Champions League football, though, again, for United on this. And as much as I like to big up and talk about Manchester United's chances, and you know I do this a lot, of getting players in. We have that United name. That's what's going to bring these players in. We don't necessarily need to be in certain positions or competitions or competing, for instance, in the Champions League. That's not the case this summer. And I have to be realistic with this here. Everything that I'm reading, everything that's being reported at the moment is on Man United being in the Champions League. And the targets completely change if we're not in that top 5 and we're playing in that competition next season. I don't want to say that this is the way it is and United can't attract these players. We can attract these players, but like you've seen before, the problems going on behind the scenes at this football club and all the issues that are going on financially with Manchester United, the sponsors dropping away, the more years that United are out of this Champions League and not competing at the top, the less of an attraction it is for other players coming in. There are better options out there now. The name of Manchester United will carry us a long, long way, but we're finding we're hitting our ceiling when it comes to that name and what Man United can bring in. The finances are talking, and United are a little bit hamstrung at the moment by not being able to offer their best football, Champions League, competing for the Premier League. If Carrick gets us there, this moves into the conversation in a moment with Michael Carrick again in terms of being the man. If he gets us there, he has saved this football club. That alone should give him a chance of taking the job on for another season at least. And that, I think, is where a lot of the talk is coming in on Michael Carrick and why a lot of journalists are bigging that side of it up. Ex-pros saying the same thing as well. It's like they'll always keep bringing in the fact that these bigger managers have all failed, so why not give it to someone who has actually proved that he can do the job in this short period of time? Give him a few more tools and let's see how he does. Going forward, what have you got to lose? No big manager is going to get Man United that Premier League title or the Champions League next season with this squad and where we're at with its development right now. So again, that's why we have spoken a lot about Michael Carrick. But on them transfers there and all of the news regarding Manchester United's finances, it's sort of positive because we've got a lot of money coming in and there's potential to make an awful lot of money if we get into the top 5 this season in the Premier League. It's there for us. It's there, it's in our hands, and it's all in the hands of Michael Carrick and his squad, realistically. And if the Mason Greenwood deal, I think Greenwood will be sold this summer. I really do. I think that one's a definite because of the, like Romano said there, the setup, the new director coming in, obviously, new manager, new setup with De Zerbi leaving. I just feel like Mason Greenwood will see it 2 years in. He's done his time. He smashed it. He was Golden Boot in League One last season. He's up there again this season. I think he was just behind Dembele last season, but right there with him in terms of goals in League One. And I think, again, this season with his numbers, there is going to be a big club moving for him, and I think he will move. It just depends on the fee. And then all of the sums that we said at the top of the show there will probably come in and we'll see Manchester United benefiting a lot. And that is a homegrown player, pure profit sale for Manchester United, which is absolutely massive when it comes to the finances going in. Champions League on top of that opens up different avenues for Manchester United, comfortably able to get the players that we need because we've got the money, but because we're in the Champions League as well. Let's get into the chat this morning. Let's see what everybody's saying on this and getting everyone's thoughts on it, because it is a major talking point. The Mason Greenwood one anyway, and the judgment on INEOS, like I've said before, in getting the right sales for players, getting the right amount of money. We need to start seeing what INEOS can do in bringing money in for Manchester United. That'll go a long way into convincing Manchester United fans also, I feel, about them being the right fit for Manchester United's future, because we have bemoaned the lack of money coming in from player sales. We are shit. Sorry for swearing on the morning, but it's the best way I can describe Manchester United's transfer activity in terms of player sales over the last decade. Crap. It is, and we all know it is. We spend big, we sell small, we lose money. We have got a chance now with the squad that we've got and the people in place, I feel, in terms of getting the right sales for Manchester United now. I think we are running it properly on that side of it. And I want to be able to judge INEOS properly on players that are actually sold out of this football club. So, look, the mistake in Rasmus Højlund wasn't the sale of the player to Napoli, which we're going to get. I think it works out around about 43 million for Rasmus Højlund in total. 43 million is a good price for a player that has really not done it in the Premier League, considering what we spent on him. And I think it was that 65 million or something like that. It's not bad. And that, on the books, is profit for Manchester United. That is good. Marcus Rashford, it's appalling. But we know the situation is determined. Mason Greenwood was appalling. Again, the situation, because of the circus at Manchester United, has determined how much money we make on them players. It's poor. But if we can make another 20 to 30 million on Mason Greenwood, that then becomes the highest sale price for any player and a record for a Manchester United academy player on the full transfer fee, that is, and what money's made from a player. That is where Man United should be. We should be selling Mason Greenwood for 50 to 60 million out of our academy for that quality of player. Obviously, the circumstances, like I said, and the obscene circumstances and craziness of that transfer and why it happened in the first place, as you all know, has determined what's happened here. Mason Greenwood should be playing for Manchester United, but for his antics off the pitch. But that's the sort of price we want for our so-called best-in-class academy players coming through. You think about it then. You put a Mason Greenwood 50 million on the table. You put a Alejandro Garnacho 40 million. There's 90. 30 million for Scott McTominay. There's 120 million for free academy players from Manchester United. If you're going to sell your academy players, that's the sort of numbers I would expect to see from Manchester United. That's not bad. That's where we should be. And obviously there are other players on that as well, but are not as big that we have sold, like Willy Cambuala, for instance. Oyedele has been sold as well from Manchester United, now on for another fee. That takes us over 130 million in the last 2 years of academy players sold. Pure profit. That's what Manchester United should be doing. That's what I would expect a director of football or a sporting structure at Manchester United to be doing. The foundation is always there for United and people working there to work off. It is perfect. It's not difficult to run Manchester United. It is an absolute marketing machine. And if you get it right on the football side, no one should be able to touch United. And yeah, you can say I'm being all red-tinted glasses and everything this morning and bigging up United, but that's what it should be. That's how United should be operating. Anyway, on the Diomande stuff, get them comments in as well. Give me your thoughts on INEOS in general, Mason Greenwood, what you're expecting from this sale. What would be a good sale for United? 50 million for an academy player in total sale isn't bad at all. Put that with Garnacho, McTominay over the last few years, Manchester United. And you could even say Marcus Rashford for that matter as well. That would take us over 150 million of academy players sold at this football club in the last 3 years. That's where Chelsea and Manchester City are. That's where we have been falling short. That's what United should be getting, I feel, anyway, if we are selling our players. And obviously, I want to keep them. If they are the best, and teams are going to spend big money on them, I want them at the club. I understand the circumstances behind these transfers. And that's where it's really annoying as a football fan of Manchester United, because we've been run like absolute, we've been run into the ground. I think of a decent word then to describe the way that Manchester United have been run. But it's been pathetic, is what it's been over the last decade. And that's why everybody's got a problem with this ownership, because they don't trust them. They don't trust them to have the best interest at heart of this football club, and they don't trust them to be able to make Manchester United great again. It's going to take a long time to convince this fan base that they are the right people to get Manchester United back up there and running sustainably and profitably in the future. And that's the issue. It's not just about the numbers on certain players right now. Every single one of these transactions will be another convincer to the fan base or the fans that have major doubts. Some are not going to be turned at all after what they've seen, but some will be. And every single deal that Man United do is going to be another one of them convincing factors that's going to help this Man United fan base feel like there is a future for the football club. And we expect them to get the best that we can get. Look, I haven't got a problem, and I said this yesterday. 2 or 3 years of a player and he's not working, sell him. Sell him. Just get rid of him. It's Manchester United. Sometimes not every single player works. Not everyone can handle the pressure of putting on that red shirt, and you have to cut your losses quickly. Don't drag it out, and don't let that player stay and stick around and accept the mediocrity. If he's not playing, he should be sold. And that's the way it's got to be. You need players on that bench that are knocking on the door. Get me on that pitch. Get me on that pitch. I'm going to make an impact. We're getting there slowly, but there are still players that Ten Hag, Ruben Amorim, Michael Carrick are just not using and don't trust. And that's when INEOS step in and take control and say, right, we are the sporting side of this. This is the structure. Director of football, head of recruitment, whoever you want to call out on this, or even the CEO, Omar Barado, get in there, get our player gone, and let's move on and bring another player in. You have to take a loss. It was on you in the first place to actually get this player in, so you have to accept that, take the loss, and what you can bring back in. But that then comes down to the right transfer fee being paid in the first place. It goes both ways. United have overpaid for average players for years. Now it's starting to, I think, stabilise, and the prices that we are paying are not as bad, and we're not going to be taking losses if them players don't work out. Just needed to explain that and what was going on about there. But yes, overall, it goes both ways. The right sale, the right price, bringing the player in, and then the right sale price if they're leaving, if they're not good enough. They go side by side. After 2 years, the majority of that transfer fee should be paid because you paid the right amount for him. Then you can sell that player if he has failed for a lesser fee, let's just say, and cover the value of what you've got left on that player in terms of instalment payments that are still outstanding, if that makes sense. Going down a lot of the financial boring stuff there as well. Let's get into the comments. Give me your thoughts, everybody. Let's go and let's get cooking with what is going on. Ben says, Adam, I bet you're glad you didn't slag Rooney off. Have you seen that video on Finalysis? Yeah. That was a surprise. I don't know if you have seen the video, but yeah, I am part of Finalysis, and with Michael McIntyre, I was almost tricked, but I stood firm and didn't slag Wayne Rooney off at all. I would never, ever even think about slagging Wayne Rooney off. I mean, honestly, if you were picking a Man United player out and trying to find fault in a Manchester United player, or pick one that you was going to get some fans thinking you wouldn't big him up, or you would say something that he didn't like, or slag him off, essentially, you wouldn't pick Wayne Rooney, would you? You would never pick Wayne Rooney because he's an absolute legend. I didn't have one bad word to say about Wayne Rooney, and then he was there listening in behind the camera and popped on, and then, thank God, I didn't. So say that. Anyway, we will never, back to the super chat, Ben, by the way, we will never be a big club again until they get rid of the Glazers, INEOS, and Radcliffe and Wilcox. We might be able to spend big money on players, but they will always wreck it. We are always going to be a big club. I disagree with what you're saying there, Michael. I know what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, and you're right. You are right. If we want to be spending whatever we want of our own money, we need to be debt-free. The owners need to be gone. I do think that Manchester United are always going to be a big club, and I do think we can be profitable again. But the only way, like I said, this commercial side of Manchester United, this commercial juggernaut, is how Manchester United have been run over the last, 15 to 10 years, even when Fergie was here. Not spend a lot and commercially be massive. Fergie bailed us out in the early years, and then he left, and we've run out of time now. United are starting to become more and more irrelevant when it comes to the football side of things, and that needs to change and change quick. The money has run out. The commercial side of it is running low. The football side needs to get back on track. Otherwise, we are going to be, I don't want to say like what Michael says there, we're not going to be a big club anymore, but we won't. We'll be a big club in history, but we won't be on the pitch going forward. Teams are already ahead of us right now, and there is a chance this season for Manchester United to turn this around. And transfers this summer are going to be scrutinised by every single one of this fan base after what INEOS have done in its first 2 years off the pitch. Transfer-wise, I don't think the players we brought in have been that bad. And last summer's transfer window was good, but again, there is going to be a lot of eyes on them, and they expect a lot this summer. Especially if we get Champions League football. There is going to be a big expectation on how much Man United spend. Our stadium is a serious drawback. Look, Old Trafford is what it is, but we can't think about this new stadium. I like the plans, I like the idea. Future down the line, 5 or 6 years, whatever it is, that's what I expect it to be. That's fine. Try and sort that out. But that only works if United are consistently playing good football on the pitch. Old Trafford is fine up until that point. Keep the stadium, build the squad, build the team, be profitable, be sustainable. Then you can start thinking about stadiums. It's pointless trying to go into a new stadium while you're playing crap football and not competing in the Champions League. That type of stadium needs season in, season out Champions League football. The commercial side of it will pile in on top of that, and that's when United will be that juggernaut again, but only then. And that's when Man United are competing. Simple as. I'm not sure about best in class, but just be good at running it. It doesn't take much. Doesn't take much, Paul. Good comment. Just do your job. Just do your job. It's like Roy Keane and Alan Shearer talking now again here, isn't it? Just do what you are employed to do. Do it to the best of your ability. Man United's name and the powerhouse that it is will take control of that. I won't take control of it. Will make it easier to control, I think. You've just got to have capable, competent people running Manchester United, and we haven't had that. We haven't had it for bleeding years. And look, there's mistakes that have been made by this ownership right now in the INEOS side of things. The Glazers have given up on, like they're never going to be anything for Manchester United. And the people in Manchester United now are at least better than what it was in terms of when it was just the Glazers in football sense. But even they have made mistakes so far, and we all know about them as well. Difference is, in the past, we overpaid for players and couldn't sell them on. Now we buy players for reasonable money, and if they don't work, we get most of it back. I've just explained exactly that, and that's exactly what Carl said there in that comment. It is now properly run in a way where we're not overspending on players. And the fact that United didn't buy anybody in January, looking at the fixtures that we've got left and the amount of games we've got left, it was probably the right choice because we didn't have the right players out there that we could have bought. I mean, I still stand by what I said about João Gomez. I thought he would have been better than Manuel Ugarte if he could have got that deal. If United get through the season and make Champions League, it'll make my call for bringing a player in sound stupid. I hope that's the case. I hope I get proved wrong by Manchester United this summer. I really do. I want INEOS to beat me, because that means we made the Champions League and we didn't spend a bean on players. And then all of a sudden, we're in a position where we've got more money. We can buy the better players. And maybe players like João Gomez would actually be cheaper because he's got a relegation clause in his contract. And we might have overspent in January. Look, I want to be proved wrong. I just think we needed another player in. And I'm hoping these next 12 games now, nothing happens to certain players and the season gets completely derailed. Because then there will be a lot more. Well, it won't just be talk. It will be angry talk onto what INEOS didn't do in January. And you know that that's coming. If we get Champions League, nobody talks about January transfer window and spending nothing. Nobody. Nobody even talks about Ruben Amorim being fired and all of the mess that was caused by INEOS in employing him in the first place. No one talks about it because we had a bad season last season. We've come back this season and we're in the Champions League. And everyone will look forward rather than back. We don't make Champions League football. you know what's coming, and you know what I was going to say. You're all thinking it already. The onslaught will be real. It really will. Super chat in from Sean. Thank you, mate. Adam, who can jump the highest, Sesko, Ronaldo, or Adam? Can I also say how bored, shitless I am of one game a week? It's crap. I want more. We all want more, mate. I can definitely not jump higher than Benjamin and Ronaldo. No, I've seen them guys. Like, seriously, Ronaldo's jump. That man is a freak. He is a freak. So too is Sesko. Don't get me wrong. Sesko is that type of player. He's got springs, hasn't he? He really has. Great super chat. Weird one. Love it. And way to completely change the subject, mate. But you're dead right about the bottom bit. Man United need to be in the Champions League next season or some kind of football just to give us more games. Because we have suffered this season with some players in our squad by not being able to give them a chance because of the lack of games. And we spoke about this last night, actually. So another thing there that needs to be brought up. Last season transfers were good, but we were at least 2 transfers short of what we needed last summer. No, it's exactly right what Lee says there. The transfers were good. We just didn't have enough of them. I think we needed at least one more in midfield of the same quality as what we brought in. I said it last night. I mean, I went into a comparison from last season with the transfers that were brought in, and no one wants to talk positively about this ownership, and it's quite right. It's quite right with the way the club has been run. It's a mess. But in terms of that transfer window, I'm sorry, you cannot argue with it. You got rid of Marcus Rashford, you brought in Matthias Cunha. You got rid of Garnacho, you brought in Brian Mbeumo. You got rid of Rasmus Højlund, we got Benjamin Sesko, and you got rid of Andre Onana and brought in Senna Lammens. That is a completely different look to Manchester United. That is a third of the starting lineup, completely changed and all better. No arguments with that. Not even debatable. And that's the type of transfer window we need again, but with about 6 of them players coming in. We needed 5 or 6 last summer, and that's been proven in the start of this season. We've salvaged it now because we haven't got any games, and we can rest everyone and play the same good team. But we're one injury away from that transfer window not looking as good, like people are saying in the chat. And that's the problem that people have got. They always feel like there should have been more done, and there could have been more done. We know this. Let's see if they do manage it. And honestly, I'm so nervous for this next 3 months worth of football. 12 games. Honestly, I'm going to be on edge. You're going to want to tune in just to see me completely melt down over every single game now going in to the end of this season. 12 games, a 12-game shootout. Dozen. Can we get that 7 to 8 wins out of them games and get over the line? Because that's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to get Man United in the Champions League. Gregory says, Dalot, Mount Shaw, Agate and Bayende need to be moved out of United. Those players need to be replaced. Plus Casemiro leaving equals 6 new players just to have the same player count this autumn. And on top of that, obviously, we have got a reasonable big squad right now. If you replace like for like, we've got a good squad there and a few good academy players. And obviously, if you are going to get rid of that amount of players, you need to replace it. I don't think Dalot or Shaw are going anywhere, not this summer anyway. And an interesting story coming up next, actually, because that's what I want to move on to, is Bruno Fernandes. And the story about him wanting Michael Carrick again. I'm just going to read this out to you, actually, because it's easier to say this than it is in trying to explain it. So I'll just read it out word for word, and then let's see what you all think about this, because there is another story on top of this about Manchester United players making it clear that they want Michael Carrick as the next manager. They believe in him that much. And look, I'm not going to say that these players down tools because we get rid of Michael Carrick going into next season. But at the moment, there is something cooking. And if these players with Carrick get Champions League football, I just think the belief will be there. Bruno Fernandes in this piece, apparently, and this is pure apparently and pure rumour, nothing else, just want to read it out. But is there anyone else thinking this, or anyone else that could believe that this is true? Bruno Fernandes has told Manchester United he will 100% leave the club if Michael Carrick is replaced. The Portuguese star has made his position crystal clear to the board. Bayern Munich remains the clear favourite to sign him, with Vincent Kompany fully backing a potential transfer. The dressing room is overwhelmingly behind Carrick. The vast majority of the players want the current interim boss to stay long term. Again, that's where we're at. Bruno Fernandes has made it clear. The only part of this story, and it sounds a bit crazy, doesn't it? It sounds out there. But when you think about it and you break it down, think about what's happened with Bruno before. And the story about him getting a little bit dejected and the constant change all of the time. He wasn't happy when Ruben Amorim was let go. That was clear. And Ruben going to meet the staff and everyone that was working with Ruben, and the pictures of him in the cafe with them spoke volumes as to where Bruno's head was at. Don't think he was great under Darren Fletcher. Don't think he was convinced. But Bruno was always talked glowingly about Michael Carrick from his first stint when he was in interim charge in 2021. And Bruno's stance on this is he's getting a little bit fed up with everything that's going on with Man United. And that's been made clear by that press conference and that interview when on international duty back in November, what we've spoken about in detail about over the last few months. Bruno Fernandes' stance is, am I going to stay around for another circus to pop its tent up and start inviting people in? That's what I think that's where Bruno's at. And I get it. He's fed up and the chopping and changing constantly. Well, he's been at Manchester United. You only have to look at the amount of managers that have been there. Like, he's had Carrick twice in his 7 years at Manchester United. Twice. He's had so many, and it's all been up and down, and it's all over the place. So I can see why Bruno would want to leave. And I can see some reality in this story that Bruno, if it changes again, I do believe there is going to be a lot of Bruno Fernandes backed by what Man United do this season and getting in the Champions League. I think if we're in the Champions League, Bruno stays. I think it's simple as that. And if we're in the Champions League and Michael Carrick is in charge, Bruno 100% is going to be a Man United player next season. My opinion, of course, but reading what I've read and listening to what people have said and the way that Bruno spoke and his attitude now for Carrick and the way that he's playing, he just seems to have that. He seems to have that get up and go back in him again. He seems to be up, but the vibe seems to be the old Bruno vibe again. Like, I am going to take this and I'm going to take it on my shoulders and get this team over the line. But he's doing it in a different way with Carrick. It just works. And I can see him not being happy if Carrick leaves. I can fully trust in that story, actually, because that's what he's been talking about. And he's been open about that as well in them interviews. So, yeah. And the players being behind Carrick, well, in their whole Man United careers, this bunch of players, have they ever been spoken about as glowingly as they have in the last month? So if they're in the public eye in this positive way and everyone's talking about them like the players that they believe they are, the good enough players, then why would they not want Michael Carrick to be there? Because he is the one that is spearheading this. He's the one that's driving this forward. Him and his team have changed the outlook of Manchester United and they've made these players look good. They've made these players look like actual bargains, the transfers that we brought in anyway, and the players that we all wanted out. I'm listening, like, even my man Saeed has said it. I've seen him in his post-match review of the game against Spurs. I'm even liking Dalot now, he said, Saeed. This is what fans are thinking. We're even watching Dalot thinking and convinced that he can actually be a player for Man United. Look, if Bruno stays, if Dalot stays, if Maguire stays, all of a sudden, them three players, which everyone was saying had to go, the part of the old guard that have to go, if they stay and the majority of this fan base is happy, then that's purely down to Michael Carrick. And if he can convince the fans that these players, are good enough to be in Manchester United and play for us in the Champions League next season, then that alone tells me that Michael Carrick has got something that warrants him being permanent coach at Manchester United going forward. Does he not? That's how I see it. And the Bruno story, if you believe it or not, and I think there is a bit of it that is far-fetched and 100% leaving if Carrick isn't the manager. Look, I still think that there is part of Bruno Fernandes that wants to be winning trophies at Man United. And I think if United get Champions League, they spend the money on the right players and they bring in the right amount of players that United need for next season, United can scare a few people. And I think Manchester United next season, we get Champions League, we spend like we're supposed to spend and bring in the players that we all know that we need, then United could go into a double cup winning season next season and qualify in the top four again for the Champions League. And I'm talking League Cup, FA Cup, and that I think, is what Man United should be looking at next season. Winning a cup and making top 4. Not the Champions League, not the Premier League, but an FA Cup, League Cup, top 4. That's United's target next season. Go far in the Champions League. Fully convinced that Man United can make top 8 of that Champions League. I don't care what anyone says. I think Manchester United can beat anyone on their day, and they've proved it this season. If you add to that squad and you've got the right man behind them, then Man United can go out there and beat anyone, I think. Because Real Madrid are not. I'd take United to beat Real Madrid right now. I would. I think United are put up a fight against Barcelona right now. Bayern Munich might be a step too far, but we've just beaten Manchester City and Arsenal and deserved them wins. You telling me that there's better teams than Arsenal and City in that Champions League right now, barring Bayern? Everyone else is insanely inconsistent in European football right now. I just watched Barcelona get smashed by Atletico the weekend. I just watched PSG get absolutely trounced by Rennes this weekend in Ligue 1. There's nobody out there at the moment that's better than what's in the Premier League. I'm getting ahead of myself, I know. Let's get some more comments on this. We're not going to win the Champions League. I'm not convincing anyone of that. I know I'm not. But obviously, the positive vibe that's been brought back in here by Michael Carrick. And again, this is why I'm so nervous for this next 12 games, because I believe I've seen enough that these players can do it with all of the breaks in between that we've got. No fixture congestion, no going away from home on the weekend after a European game and getting beaten by a good side. When we come up against Brentford at Old Trafford, great side. Beforehand, we'd have been playing in Europe, double game week. This time we're not. We play Newcastle, obviously, in a busy period as well. We play Aston Villa after they've played in Europe. We'll play Liverpool after they've probably played in Europe, although they might be out of the Champions League by then when we come to May. But you never know. So the advantage is United's. Fully fit squad, barring, 2 players in De Ligt and Dorgu, because Mason Mount is also back for the Everton game next Monday. And we'll get confirmation of that from Michael Carrick probably on Friday before the weekend. He'll be doing his next press conference on Friday. It feels weird not having normal Man United stuff to talk about. It goes back to Sean's super chat a moment ago then, doesn't it? About Manchester United not having games. It's weird. Let's get some more comments in. I've done enough talking there on that. Give me your thoughts on it, everybody. Thank you, by the way. Over 200 likes. Well over 200 likes already. Fantastic. By the way, we just passed over 103,000 subscribers last night as well. So thank you again to everyone who subscribed to the channel and everyone who's also subscribed to Adam FC. We are creeping up to 10k subscribers on Adam FC, people, now. Only a few hundred away. So if you haven't already checked out my other channel, go over there and check that out. The link is in the description, everyone. We did a video on Garnacho the other day that had over 70,000 views on it, which is mega for a channel that's got 9,000 subscribers. Appreciate you all, as always. PC Master in the chat says, don't think this type of coaching is sustainable, but why not make the same mistake again and then regret later? Would be first time anyway. Bit of sarcasm in PC Master's comment there, I can feel. But tell me, no Ancelotti, no Tuchel, no De Zerbi, no Enrique, no Nagelsmann. Would you rather have a Glasner, an Areola, or a Marco Silva, or a Pochettino over Michael Carrick? That's the reality. We can all talk about the obvious and doing what we did with Ole, but someone tell me what their managers have got over Michael Carrick apart from managing a Premier League team at mid-table. And this is only, of course, if Michael Carrick gets Champions League. If he gets Champions League football, then he's done something that none of their managers have ever done. Apart from Pochettino, of course. But, and again, he's had his chance at big clubs. That's all I'm saying. I get what PC Master's saying there. But with the big names gone, who are you going to get in? Who are you going to get in? Get the Glazers out and charge City. Two things I don't think that will ever happen, to be honest. I'd let Mount have surgery to try and keep him fit more often. I don't think that's the case, Josh. Like, they would have already made the decision if he needed surgery already. Lee says, it's terrible the amount of games we are playing. It's like an international break every other week. Yeah, that is how it feels, mate. It is, isn't it? It is horrible. It is hanging that Man United haven't got the games that we used to have. I hate it. I hate it. Let's get some more comments in. They have trendy names. That's it. We don't need yesterday's men. We be Carrick. We've been Carrick. Okay. Arteta might be available if he bottles it again, says Stephanie. We'll see. We'll see on that one. Mark says, oh my God, you're all being played after 5 games. What the F? This is scary. Let's not forget, only changed forwards since Eric Ten Hag. These are light switch players and are glazing, and you're glazing them. I won't be calm till old guard gone. Who is your old guard, Mark? Tell me, because Bruno Fernandes is doing it right now. Harry Maguire is smashing it right now against the best in this league, I might add. I could argue Luke Shaw, obviously. Bit of inconsistencies. Yeah. Come on, I'm waiting for it. Like, being blown away by 5 games. Look, all we can talk about is 5 games because that's all Carrick's had. So, what do you want us to do? Think of something that wasn't there? Carrick's got more out of these players in 5 games than I've seen Eric Ten Hag and Ruben Amorim put together. And no one can argue that fact with me. So that's why we're talking about it. And yeah, on back of everything that I've said as well, I don't know if you're having a go at me or everyone else in the chat, Mark, but on back of that, I've always said and always backed this up. If Carrick gets to the Champions League at the end of the season, which is why, and like I said again, I am so nervous for the next 12 games. Not like I'm saying this is it, it's done. I don't want Carrick in now. I don't want him anywhere near a permanent appointment right now. If he gets Champions League, that changes the subject and that changes the conversation completely. Let me know what you're thinking, everybody, and get your comments in, please. I'm going to wrap things up there quickly just to go over our top story again. In terms of Manchester United, Romano talking about Mason Greenwood and the potential of Manchester United cashing in this summer. Talking about the 50% sell-on. The situation at Marseille is such that Greenwood's future will be determined this summer. And if he is sold, United are set to make anything between 20 to 35 million going off the price of Mason Greenwood, which would then take his transfer total to over 50 million for Manchester United for an academy player. All pure profit and helping Manchester United's summer. And the point we made at the top of the show, if you are just joining us now at the end, is that added to Champions League money and why this next 12 games is so big will be massive for Manchester United come the summer. Thank you for all the comments. Sorry I've not been able to get through as many as I would like to. Please drop your comments in below as well. And when the live is finished, I will catch up with you as much as I can later on. Stay tuned. I will be back later on this evening as well, everyone, with any updates. I'm out and about. It's half term, of course, here in England. So plenty of stuff to do this week. Being busy with the kids and everything. I hope you have a good one, everyone, if you're on half term. Enjoy the week or not, because it is crazy at half term, isn't it, with the kids. And trying to fit them into everything and work and all of that. But yes, hang in there. Please give me a like on the video if you love the content. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you everyone who has already. Thank you, Super Chats. Cheers, mods. I will speak to you all